Good evening, class. My name is Jamie Myers. I am your course director for Visual Arts in the Entertainment and Media Industries, and this is week's 2 virtual class. So this week, we're just going to be focusing on the assignments that you have to take a look at this week that you need to have completed. So last week, you guys did what can I identify, as well as who do I admire. What can I identify when you broke down an image, and who do I admire when you started researching some individuals in the industry at which you can admire. So this time we're going to go ahead and start with 2.1, which is what do they do? So what do they do? It takes about an hour and a half. This assignment is due on Thursday. So you have a few more days in order to complete this assignment. This is very similar to the assignment, Who Do I Admire? It's about the same amount of time it takes to complete that. So the first thing that we're ask you is which of the disciplines at which you are researching throughout the month. So whichever one that you chose last week, you're going to continue researching that same kind of discipline that you may be interested in. The first thing that you're going to do is research responsibilities. So you're going to take one of those disciplines and maybe some jobs within that discipline and explain the responsibilities for that job within that discipline. So there are many resources. You must research and not assume or recall from your brain. If you want to start with your brain as a basis, you have to go ahead and verify that information when you guys research. So you're going to explain 5 responsibilities in 100 words. And that's not 100 words per responsibility, it's total. So let me give you a tip for responsibilities. There's a really good book. There's lots of really good books in the Safari libraries, which you should be able to access through the library. And that is on Full Sail 1. And you're going to have to sign in. And once you sign in, I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly so that we can access the information I want to show you. But there's a heck of a lot of really cool books in there. But those who are, this is the book I want to show you, who are in DCBS, maybe some writing as well as media communications. The producing side of that, there's this really good book called The Complete Guide to Film and Digital Production. The cool thing about this book is it actually kind of divides the different departments, and it also lists some really cool information. For instance, let's go ahead and go to the art department. So we're going to click on the art department because that's the discipline at which I'm interested in. And from here, if we go to the next page, there's a great organizational chart that is listed here. So it kind of shows you which positions, the titles of positions, as well as where the hierarchy of those positions are. So the top would be production designer, as well as the assistant and the art director. And then it keeps going down. So this lists lots of information or lots of jobs here within that art department. The next really cool thing that listed here is it breaks down responsibilities within each of the phases of production. So here for the art department, here's at least 20 responsibilities, and I'm asking for 5. And you can continue to go to each one of the different jobs, and that also lists the different responsibilities for that individual within that job. So this is a really, really cool book. You can go to the producer side if you wanted to check that part out. There's also some writing information here too. So again, this is Safari Books. You can get to it through the library and Full Sail 1. So really cool one. So as we continue, the next chunk of paragraph that you need to research and answer has to do with the skills. So now that you're researching a specific discipline, what kind of skills does it take to be successful within that discipline? Okay, so you're going to choose one of the jobs that you've listed up here, and you're going to list 5 skills that is required in order to be successful. And you need to explain why each skill is important for that job position. So as a tip, you can research the job positions of one of your Who Do I Admire professionals. That's a good direction. Can you hear me? Yeah. That's a good direction to start your research. So if we're talking about directors, let's say Quentin Tarantino, what does he do well? Okay, and you can start listing some skills. If you have some questions on what skills are, there's a great resource that I've provided you listed right here that are just really basic skills job skills, professionalism, organization skills. And what you'll actually find out is that each one of these disciplines really do have different skill sets that are required to be successful. For instance, writing and directing has skill sets that maybe an editor won't have, and vice versa. So, as you are trying to figure out if this is the right discipline for you, you need to figure out what skills they need. And then later on in week 4, you'll be actually be able to compare those skills to yourself. So, again, you're trying to research and understand a little bit more about yourself and the industry at which you are interested in entering. The last one right here is 150 words. You are going to research a negative impact from the last 10 years. That's very important. This is 2019. So you have to pick something that was 2009 or newer, right? From the last 10 years. And it must impact one of the project options. So something that impacted a specific narrative series, a specific movie, a specific commercial campaign. These are 6 options at which you can choose from the type of negative impact. A union strike, a public relations disaster, accident on set, work accident, over budget, loss of budget, natural disaster, and protesters or work disruption. So it has to fit within the past 10 years. Okay, you can't use the Me Too movement for this assignment either, for multiple different reasons. Okay, but these are the things, and I've kind of broken down what each one of them are. If you use these keywords, it's going to be easier for us to make sure, yep, that's what you're talking about. Use one of these words. A union strike for video games consists of, and blah, 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 and continue, right? So after you've researched, there are 4 different things that which you need to include into that 150 words. The first thing, you're going to tell me what had happened, right? Explain the negative impact. And then explain to me what companies or individuals were affected the most. That's 2. The third thing is, what do they do, right? How do they handle the situation? And the fourth thing is, what was the lasting effect on the company or individuals? Okay. A lot of the things that are going on right now, you can't answer the last 2 questions. How did they handle it? Because it's still going on. What is the lasting effect? It's not lasting because it's still going on. So you really need to find something that has concluded so you can kind of understand what pitfalls may be within the industry at which you want to enter. So again, the event must be chosen from the list and must affect the project types. It can't be a negative impact that has affected you personally. I get crazy stuff for this that does not count. I've had one kid tell me that they dropped their Nokia phone in the toilet and they missed a call for a job, and that was a negative impact for them and the industry, and that doesn't fly. I've had one student tell me that they left their yearbook on the bus and it affected them because they didn't have, I mean, ridiculous stuff. So please make sure it affects one of the project options. It must be from the last 10 years, and it is one of these 6 options here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and give us that information in 150 words. So you have 100 words of responsibilities, 100 of skills, and 150 of negative impact. Very similar to your what do they admire, or who do they admire assignment. And because this is a research assignment, you need to cite at least 2 resource sources. We are not requiring you to do an image for this assignment. You're going to be doing lots of images for next week as well as the other assignment. So no image required for this one. The deliverable states that you need to, in the completion section of this assignment, go ahead and type this information. So what is the discipline? Which discipline board? Which discipline? Yeah. Which discipline did you choose? I don't know where that word came from. Which discipline did you choose? What were the responsibilities? 100 words, 100 words of skills, and 150 words of negative impact. And of course, your cited sources. Your rubric is listed there, very similar to who do I admire, 25% for the 100 words, 150 words is 30%. Cited sources and follow injection are each 10%. And only if you're turning it in late do you put it in the feedback section. And that's only because the completion section is no longer available. The completion section goes away on Thursday at 11:59 when this assignment is due. Does anybody have any questions regarding this assignment? Can you use the internet for research, or do we have to use Safari Books? You can definitely use the internet, but you want to make sure that the source that you're getting the information is a valid source. So Variety, Hollywood Reporter, any kind of awards, CNN, Fox News, whatever it is that you're utilizing, make sure it's a reputable source and it's not some troll in their basement spreading rumors. Okay? And you're good. That's why you got to cite your sources so I know where that information is coming from. What do I mean by professional source? Just that a professional source is one that checks their facts. Think of it that way. Any kind of journalists have rules at which they can't publish anything unless they have 2 or 3 sources at which can, verify that information. So that's why it's a reputable source or a professional source. Wikipedia is a good place to start the research, but you go down to the bottom of Wikipedia page where they cite their sources. And those are the places at which you are going to continue your research and cite those sources. Okay? Yes, you cannot cite Wikipedia, but it's a good place to start your research and utilize their cited sources. Yep, no Wikipedia. No, Wikipedia can be edited by anybody, and it's not a reputable source. Okay? It's also explained in the monthly announcements that Wikipedia isn't accepted. Nobody accepts Wikipedia or Google as a search engine as cited sources as you continue. So the next thing that we are going to take a look at is the big one. So what do they do does not have an ice chest, right? However, there's a large ice chest that you are going to go over in the visual research project. So if we take a look at this module, let me just break that down by itself. You have the ice chest, which is going to be the information at which you need in order to complete all of the assignments that are within this module. You have task 1 post and task 3 reply. Task 1 post is due this Sunday. So we talked about the what do they do assignment is due Thursday. Task 1 is what's going to be due on Sunday. The following Sunday, task 3 will be due, as well as task 2 will be due. So I'll go ahead and talk about task 3 today because it's in the same assignment as task 1. However, next week I'm going to be focusing on task 2 and task 4 as we continue the class. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ice chest first. So this ice chest is about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Again, I don't provide you too much of reading material. It's more of videos because we are visual arts. So I've given you a few different lectures as well as, just like before, some subject matter experts that can help give you another perspective from people that work in the industry. So the first thing that we're going to be covering is the project options. So that's about 10 minutes of a lecture. And again, if you take a look at the what do they do assignment, the project options are listed right here. So I kind of dive into all the different kinds of options and what are the positives and why you would choose one kind of over another. So the next thing is 2 videos explaining some examples of transmedia campaigns. And transmedia campaigns are the newest way at which you can involve your audience in your stories. There are so many amazing transmedia campaigns out there. We have listed 2 here, one from The Dark Knight and one from Prometheus. There's a really good one for Game of Thrones. There's a whole bunch more. And they definitely connect with the audience when you're telling a story and you're involving them with your story. So there's lots of opportunity to tell stories within transmedia, more so than anything else, because any product that needs to be sold can have a transmedia. Any business can have a transmedia campaign. So there's a lot more opportunities in that. And it's fairly simple to do. It doesn't cost very much, mostly time more than anything. So those are 2 examples of transmedia campaigns. And we also are going to continue the disciplines that the visual arts industry focuses on. So last week we started with writing. This time we're going to be continuing with filmmaking as well as marketing. So the filmmaking lecture is about 7.5 minutes that is listed here. We're going to be diving into the different jobs that are available within the filmmaking industry and maybe some of the choices that you need to make within the filmmaking industry, just so that you know exactly where to start. A lot of pre-production ideas, so that when you get to those kind of production elements, you are acting on what you've already planned. We've also given you a video proof of concept, a couple of minutes, as well as about 10 minutes of the storyboards. Storyboards are really, really cool and very, very important. So there's a really great interview with an amazing storyboard artist. Next would be, we talk about Foley. Foley is really fun. Here's a video from the Oscars. Continue to marketing. Marketing is the biggest one. It's about 12 and a half minutes for that one. We talk about target market as well as cross promotion and product placement. So we talk about taglines as well. So here's two examples of taglines, one for branding, one for movies. People are more familiar with that one. And then talking about product placement, giving you some examples as well as how does it work, because you literally can fund your entire project by just donations from different product placement people, which is a really good way at which you can make your stuff work. Those 3 lectures are listed here as a PDF. We've also provided some additional resources. Some of this you're going to be utilizing next week when I told you a little bit before, you will be creating an promotional image very similar to the one that you broke down last week. So you're going to be doing that this week. And I'll give you a little bit more information on that next week. But here are some additional resources that may help you guys as you are designing either movie posters, cover art for graphic novels or video games, or any kind of advertisement for any kind of product. So you can go ahead and take a look at those if you guys are interested in it a little bit early. However, one thing I would highly suggest for you to start is, because you guys are going to be creating an image, and I know everybody is using multiple different types of, electronic devices. For instance, the phone or the iPad or a laptop or a desktop, whatever you guys are utilizing, there are applications at which will assist you to create these images. So if you already have Creative Cloud, Adobe Suite, you guys can utilize Illustrator or Photoshop. Those are cost. If you don't have that, that's perfectly fine. There are 3 other options that we suggest you guys to use as well. Google Drawings is really cool. You can utilize that on your desktop or your laptop. Adobe Spark is really good on your desktop or your iPad, and Canva is your phone, your iPad, just anything else. Canva is very, very easy. If you are not familiar with any of these, I have provided you guys tutorials so that you can take a look at that. And there's always University of YouTube. These lynda.com tutorials are pretty in-depth, but you can get some really good information. So if you have time this weekend, when you're done with your other assignments, take a look at these so that you are refreshed and know how to utilize those applications when you guys are creating those images next week. You also have the research. You will be doing a lot of research this week, so I've provided that just in case you haven't had it before, or watched it before. So hit mark as completed and continue. So we have task 1 post, task 3 reply. Task 1 post is due Sunday of week 2. Task 3 is going to be due Sunday of week 3. Okay, both Sundays. And we can go ahead and take a look at the course at a glance at the very end. Task 1 is going to be worth twice as much as task 2 because you're doing twice as much work as task 3. So task 1 is listed here, Sunday of week 2. So this one's approximately 2 hours. Again, that's up to you on how much you want to put into this. For this assignment, you guys are going to be doing research based on your discipline, based on project options that you're interested in, based on pre-existing IPs that you are interested in as well. So there's much, much different choices for you guys as you are figuring out what you want to do for this assignment. So the first thing that you're going to do is take a look at the different kinds of choices you have regarding the pre-existing IP. Then you're going to choose one of them that you are most interested in working on for the next 2.5, 3 weeks. Then you're going to choose one of the project options that are available in which to tell your story. So you can tell a story in multiple different project options for this one. And the last thing that you have is you are going to tailor your research based on your discipline. whether you are a writer, a filmmaker, or a media communicator. Okay, so let's go ahead and start and take a look at the options that you have to choose from. So the first one, you have 15 here. You have a one from Asuka, the female wrestler from the WWE. You have Red Sonja Conan the Barbarian, 1990s spinoff from a primetime or syndicated television show. Captain Planet, Broadway musical, Nickelodeon, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Metroid, K-pop or J-pop, Postmodern Jukebox, Roger Rabbit, Zoolander, Little Man, Static Shock, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So some of these are clients or pre-existing IPs, IPs being intellectual property. Anything that has been created by somebody else, and you are now going to tap into the world or the characters that somebody else already created. So it's kind of a way at which you can talk to a fan base that already exists. Okay. So when you're doing something like that, the big thing that you need to do is research. You need to understand what those characters in that world entails when you are trying to come up with a story, because you definitely want to make sure you're talking to that same audience. And if you've noticed in the past, when some of your favorite characters on television or from a book and get translated into another kind of medium, and it's totally different, you have people that get angry. Okay, so you don't want to anger your audience. You want to live up to your audience by doing your research on the characters in the world that already exist, and that's where this research is and this assignment is coming from. So what are you going to do? You're going to choose one of these first. So let's go ahead and choose Roger Rabbit. Okay, so this project gives you a kind of a log line at which you need to include into that project. Okay, so it has to be Roger Rabbit. He has to have adventures. He has to have an adversary being Judge Doom, and you have to include pre-existing animated universes that other people own. For instance, in the movie Roger Rabbit, they use Disney characters, and this is the opportunity for you to add additional characters to Roger Rabbit. So once you choose that, there are 3 different options at which you can choose: narrative series, animated series, and talk shows. If you go back and look at the assignment, there is a video that is listed right here. What is the goal of the project? One of my instructors, Michael Cosillo, he has put together a little, I think it's a 3-minute video that kind of breaks it down, whether you want your story to be interactive, or you just want it to be watched, or you want it to be a companion kind of project to something else. So make sure that you watch that so you understand how that each one of these kind of break it down. And from there, let's say I'm going to be doing Roger Rabbit, and let's do a animated series with Roger Rabbit without any kind of live action. Okay, so I'm going to do Roger Rabbit, and I want to do an animated series. Now what? So I take a look, multiple choices. I chose Roger Rabbit, check. I chose animated series, check. And now I have to download corresponding worksheet. So again, there are 3 different worksheets: writers, filmmakers, and media specialists. And you have it listed here. The reason why we put directing within the writers category is because the most important thing to a director is to understand its character and its world. So you really need to understand that more than you need to understand the technical kind of things. And the same reason why we have producing more media communications rather than the technical kind of filmmaking parts is because there's a lot of paperwork, and producer's job is to get shit done. Okay, so those are your options. All right, now I'm going to continue a little bit. Actually, what I'm going to do, let me do this part. Okay, so once you've chosen, you're supposed to research the pre-existing IP or client for the pitch choice that you chose. You must cite sources for that assignment. So I have to go and now research Roger Rabbit, I understand Judge Doom because he was listed, Roger Rabbit was listed, Friends were listed, and then of course I'm researching another IP that somebody else has already created. So maybe I want to use Family Guy. Family Guy within my world of Roger Rabbit. Okay? Or maybe I'm using South Park characters in Roger Rabbit. Whatever, works. So you're going to use this research to create an original project that can easily be fit with their branding and universe, like I mentioned before. Your story can be an adaptation, but it can't be an exact copy of something that exists already. You need to be creative. And you cannot answer questions based on your knowledge alone. Like I said, it's a research assignment. You need to make sure that that information is valid. You also want to make sure you might be learning more about those types of projects and those worlds and those characters that you may not have already known. Okay, so once you do that, you're going to download the worksheet and complete the worksheet. We'll take a look at the worksheets in just a second. But I know you have a couple of questions based on your choices, so let's go ahead and answer those. Okay, so somebody asked about, is there one for anime? Okay, so anime is an animated series, right? So any of these that you have listed as animated series, you can tailor to the style of anime rather than the style of, a 2D South Park or 3D whatever. You can tailor it to that. So maybe a Red Sonja and Conan anime, or a Roger Rabbit anime. That's perfectly fine, as long as you're doing the research to make sure that there is a fan base within the animated community that will actually be interested in those characters. Okay, cool. Yep. Again, I give you lots of options to kind of do what you want to do and be creative with the same restrictions as far as everybody else is concerned within this class. So you are not making your own intellectual property. You are creating a story within the world of an existing intellectual property. Okay, so you take Roger Rabbit and now you're telling another Roger Rabbit story. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the worksheets at which you guys could choose from. Again, you are only choosing one worksheet, but I'm going to go ahead and break down all three so that you understand that anybody that chooses them would know what's up. So the first part of it is image pre one of the different stories. This is going to help you break down kind of your idea, as well as put the information that is listed within this in your poster that you're going to create for your project next week. So next week, you're going to create a poster for this project that you're creating today, this week, that is due on Sunday. So that's what task 2 is going to end up being. So these are very similar questions that you went through last week when you were talking about identifying. So the first thing is which pitch choice from the list given. So my answer would be animated series. I'm sorry, this would be the Roger Rabbit one. What type of project? That would be animated series. What is the title? Well, I don't know the title yet, so I'm going to leave that one blank. Who are the professionals involved? This is where the research starts. So I most likely would want to use the voice actor for Roger Rabbit. So I figure out who that is. I want to involve him. Who played Judge Doom? Is he still available, or should I get my story has to do with a young Judge Doom, right? So here I'm starting to figure out who I'm going to cast for the animated series, right? What genre? Well, if I want to, you're going to keep going with the questions. You're going to start figuring this out. If you don't know the answer to these questions yet, because you haven't come up with the story, that's fine, as long as they're answered before you turn it in. Who are the characters in the story? What is the main conflict? You're going to create a fun little tagline because you're going to add that to your poster. Who is the production company or client? That's another one that will need some research. Who created the original? Because that's when you start figuring out, okay, so I also need, if it's animated series, who's going to animate it? So which production company is going to animate it, and which production company is going to distribute it? Which production company is going to help with the IP, the pre-existing IP, right? So that's what you're going to keep doing, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and write a 100 to 250 word summary. And I always forget it's a word summary, not a 250 summary. That doesn't make sense. So, okay, all right, some dashes there. Write a 100 to 250 word summary of your original story. If you have to do this first, that's fine, and then come back to this. But now you're going to go ahead and I'm going to tell a story if it's an animated series. So any kind of series you want to give a broad stroke over the whole series, the story arc that you learned last week, and what's his problem at the beginning, what's his problem in the end, and maybe some of the little episodes in the middle. That's what we would kind of want for a series. If it's a movie or a one-off, then just give me, beginning, middle, end. If it is a commercial campaign, what's a commercial for, give me example of one commercial, two commercial, three commercial. Okay, so that's what we are asking for the top. Now the bottom of these worksheets have to do with the industry specific questions. This is where you're a writer, you're a filmmaker, or a media communicator. Writers are going to give me more information. So I understand you needed 100 to 250 words here, but now you're going to give me some more some subplots or some character plots that aren't in the big picture. So you're going to give me a beginning, middle, end, as well as describing main characters, secondary protagonists, and main antagonists. And then everybody has the same question here. How will you sell your story to investors? Okay, so basically what makes you unique? If I hear 50 Roger Rabbit pitches, why should I choose you if I'm going to quote unquote give you money? So that is what is needed for the writers. Moving on to the filmmakers questions on this sheet. Now you're going to be focusing on more of what you've learned in the ice chest for this week. So in the ice chest in the filmmaking lecture, we talked about producers, directors, staff, as well as the software, including the graphic software, the composers, the actual locations, and of course the same question, what makes your story unique? Why should I choose you? So the next one is media specialists. And in the media specialist lecture, you guys learn about target market, different kinds of markets as well, talking about the cross promotion, social media. You actually get to write a couple social media posts. This is where research really comes in play. Find a project similar to yours. See what they're posting about their projects that are coming out to entice people. And you're kind of really going to, copy that, but you're going to base it on your project that you're coming up with. Spin-offs and tie-ins, of course, the last question, what makes your story unique? Excuse me. So that's what you have to answer. However, this worksheet is yours for your desktop and your computer. Again, we don't like uploads, so what we want you to do is copy this information, and the instructions for the deliverable includes pasting it within the discussion board. So step one is you're going to go to this board that is listed right here, and then you're going to go ahead and paste it in the discussion board that is listed here. So you're going to say hi, introduce yourself, and then kind of break down your project based on all the different questions. All right, and that is due on Sunday. You're going to post that, and then next week, you're going to take that information and you're going to find somebody else's and you're going to reply to their awesome ideas. So the rubric for task 1, like I said, it's worth twice as much as task 3 because it's twice as much work. So this is the total of 200 points and task 3 is 100 points. And then we divide that by 3 to get your grade for this so that the task 1 is worth twice as much. If you're not good at math, you're fine. Just understand that the points are listed here as well of where everything is. Task 3. So this one is due on Sunday. If people have already started posting their worksheet out there and their ideas, you can go ahead and start replying extra early. So this one is about, an hour and a half. Again, it's not due until the end of week 3. And for this, you are going to discuss some of the strengths and weaknesses and also find a way to collaborate with somebody that has kind of pitched you their idea. So once you've posted all your awesome ideas, then you're going to go ahead and find somebody to reply to. So you're going to reply to one of your peers, task 1 post, who haven't received a response in instructor's zone count. You're going to select one at which you have background or interest, and you're going to answer the following questions. What were their strengths or weaknesses in at least 50 words. What specific suggestions do you have to improve their choices? So the weakness is, how would you change them to improve them? And again, you're basing this on the world that exists, so you might need to do additional research. Number 4 is, how can you contribute to their project based on your discipline? For instance, if somebody did the writer's worksheet and I'm a producer, I did the media communications worksheet. As a producer, that person did writers. How could I help that person with their project? Okay, how could I collaborate with them? So as a director or whatever, I would do what? In at least 50 words. And then for question number 5, you're going to provide an example of how you would collaborate with your peers on the project. Choose one task from the list below. There are 3 choices, and you're going to make the choice based on what they did not do. So if they were a writer and they've already kind of put together protagonist and the antagonist, you're not going to do the work they've already did. You're going to find one of these other things that which you can contribute to their project. All right. So protagonist and antagonist in 100 words. What producer and director would you choose on their project and why? Or you can create a logo or image of their title name for their poster. And then you're going to embed the image that is listed there. So you're giving them some nice critical feedback. You're going to tell them, this is an awesome way at which I can help your project be better. And that is what task 3 is. When you do your task 3, you're going to reply directly to their post, and you're going to go ahead and just break it down. When you guys are going to be doing task 4, you can take this information that somebody has replied to you about and kind of talk about how you could contribute their information to your project. If you liked it or if you didn't like it, if you agreed with it or whatever. So task 3, again, is due at the end of next week. Task 1 is due at the end of this week. Your rubric is listed here. Nobody's going to turn this sucker in late. Each one is due on Sundays. Does anybody have any questions regarding this assignment? Nope. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the course at a glance, because I always like to know what I'm up to. Last week we did identify on Thursday, who do I admire on Sunday. This week we are doing what do they do on Thursday, and the visual research project task 1 due on Sunday. Okay. Next week, you can see that we're ramping it up. You're going to be doing additional assignments, not just 2 a week, because you're going to be doing a lot of writing and a lot of reflecting in the last weeks 3 and weeks 4. All right. So again, that's going to be more reflecting and writing. As well as next week, remember, you have an awesome poster that you can take a look at. You can actually go to right now and take a look at that assignment because it is open for you. However, I would not focus on it because you got a lot ahead of you this week. If you get done early, you can take a look at that and start working on it, but that is up to you. All right, last thing I want to cover is the extra credit for the week. So remember, we have networking with professionals, continue doing that. Weeks 2, extra credit. You guys have the opportunity to start replying to some of the awesome students that have posted their week 1 assignment when they talked about themselves. You're going to navigate back to the networking site. This time you're going to log in because you already signed up last week. If you didn't, go ahead and sign up. You're going to create a new post and start networking. You're actually going to go ahead and start replying to 2 students and 4 sentences apiece, 8 sentences. You're going to just talk to them. You're going to talk about ways of collaborating with each other, common career goals, and other common interests that you may have. And that's fairly easy. So just find some awesome, we had some new pictures up here that my mentors put up. Awesome. Very cool. Drew, Jordan, and Brittany. I'm so happy for my mentors right now. That's very surprising. So now you're going to go ahead and start networking with those individuals. You can read what they are, and this person has already started. Start networking. Okay? No one has replied to you. That's okay. It's the beginning of the week. You can reply to some of these awesome people. Okay? All right. Any questions regarding anything that we covered? Good job being friends and reaching out to each other. I appreciate that, and I'm sure they do as well. All right, guys. I'll leave you to. If you have any questions, please make sure that you email us. And don't forget that there is an open session on Friday, allowing you guys to ask any additional questions right before the weekend, so you have opportunity to know exactly what you guys are doing. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Have a great week. Good luck and be creative.